name is Shelby. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, we're going to be doing my December monthly wrap up. So these are going to be all the books that I read in the latter half of December, finishing out the year 2021. So let's get into all of those books that I read. So I believe I counted it up. I read a total of 26 books for the whole month of December. So I'm not going to be talking about all 26 in this video. You'll have to watch the other one, my mid-month wrap-up, to watch me talk about the books that I read at the beginning half of December. And a lot of those, I was in the Christmas mood, so a lot of the books are going to be like novellas. But I think since after the halfway mark of December, I started to get a little bit burned out on a lot of the Christmas romances that I was reading. So in this one, we kind of delve away a little bit from all the Christmas romances. There are still a few sprinkled in here and there, but for the most part, I was more like, okay, this is crunch time. It's the end of the year. What are some of the books that I want to try to get in by the end of the year? So let's get into those. Okay, so the first book that I read in the latter half of December is going to be Priest by Simone. This was a reread for me. I read Priest a year or two ago, but Saint is the newest book in this series. Came out earlier in the year. So I wanted to reread this one and just actually finish off that series and read Saint. So like I said, so this is a reread for me. If you're not familiar with what this is about, this is a priest romance. As the title suggests, it is about a priest, and he has this woman who isn't actually a part of his church, but she comes in off the street and comes into the confessional booth, and he talks to her, but he starts to feel a connection towards her. And then once he sees who she is after they get out of the confessional, he has a very strong sexual attraction to this woman as well. So this one I originally rated this the first time I read this, I rated this 4 stars, but this reread, I just loved this so much. I gave this 4.5 stars on this reread. This book is just so good. It is the epitome of why I love Simone's books. They're usually really taboo. So this, obviously, with a priest, having sexual encounters, relationship with a priest, very taboo. Her books are very steamy. So there are elements of BDSM in this. They do have sexual relations in the church. So, if you're uncomfortable with all that, then you may want to stay away from this one, but I loved it. The steamy scenes were excellent. And then Simone also has such a emotional punch to her books. I loved how the main character, the priest in this story, the whole book is told from his point of view. And it's just, it breaks my heart to see how much he struggles with himself. He struggles with how he's feeling, his attraction towards this woman and his feelings toward this woman, yet he's not supposed to have those feelings, and juggling with that with how he feels within his religion, and God and faith, and it's so good. I love this book so much, and I did read the rest of the books in the series, so stay tuned because we'll be talking about all the rest of those too. Then I read Midnight Mass, which is a novella in the Priest series that takes place in between Priest and Sinner, which is the second book of the series. So this isn't one that you necessarily have to read if you're wanting to read the Priest series. This is kind of a continuation of the two characters from Priest. And this is them. The hero is now trying to work on, he's in graduate school, and I can't remember if he's working on like a master's or a PhD. And so they're kind of struggling a bit in this one with trying to balance their relationship and being a relationship, because then she also, I think she's opened her own either like dance studio or like an art studio or something. And then he's really busy with grad school, so they don't really have a ton of time for each other. So this is them kind of struggling through that and trying to make their relationship work. I gave this one 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it, mostly because of something that happens at the end that has a really big emotional punch. I usually don't really care for stories that are like the ever after side, where like the 2 characters get together and now it's kind of them just domesticized and just, I don't know, it's more boring to me. But like I said, this does have something that happens at the end, and there are trigger warnings for it, but I don't really want to say what those are because I feel like it does spoil it. So if you have things that are triggering for you and you're not really sure, you can kind of look up the trigger warnings for this book, because like I said, it happens at the end, but how the 2 characters deal with it and how they come back together and show their love was just really special to me. And I just really loved how Simone handled that in here, and I appreciated some of the things that she did with this. So I know I'm being really vague on that, but I just feel like it's the best I could do with it because I don't want to give spoilers away. So this one, like I said, is 4 stars. Then I read Sinner, which is the second book of the Priest series. So I didn't mention with Priest, so this whole series is about these brothers and basically how the aftermath of their younger sister committing suicide, and how each of these brothers are kind of dealing with that. So Priest, with that brother, he really dives into religion and his faith, and he uses that as a way to cope with his sister's death. This one, which is I think this is the oldest sibling, he does the exact opposite. He loses all of his faith. He doesn't want anything to do with religion. So he is a businessman and he is a playboy. But this one is about him, and I can't remember what kind of businessman he is. He is like trying to, I don't remember if his company owns this property or something that they're trying to sell, but there are a bunch of nuns living in this property. So he is tasked by his boss to go meet with these nuns and basically to kind of do like some PR stuff, but then also try to help them find somewhere else to go because they really don't want this building anymore, something along those lines. Anyway, so when he's going to meet with these nuns, he finds out that his best friend's younger sister is actually there, and she is wanting to become a nun, but he hasn't seen her in a long time, and when he sees her, he is immediately attracted to her. Like, he has a strong, immediate sexual attraction towards her. And he's like, crap, this is my best friend's younger sister. She's wanting to become a nun. But she has not, Sara Simone goes through all this stuff, like the actual terminology of, the process of what they're like I don't know. Because she's not actually a nun yet, but she's going through the process of becoming a nun. And her somebody, like one of her teachers, I don't know, I'm terrible with the lingo with this, but has told her to try to explore the world outside of religion, and to form relationships with people to help her like make sure that this is the right decision for her. So she comes to our hero and she basically asks him, she's a virgin, and she asks him to take her virginity and to sleep with her because she's never done that and she wants to experience it so that she knows, like, becoming a nun, that yes, this is the thing that I want to do and I want to give up all of those other things. So they end up doing that. I gave this 5 stars. I loved this book so much. I loved the 2 characters in here. And again, like with Priest, I loved how Sara Simone is able to write both of their struggles, even though it is, again, primarily from his point of view. So you mostly get to see his struggles with what is going on. But I also like how you see some of her struggles with coming to a decision on whether or not she wants to be a nun, and then seeing him, this guy who is a playboy and doesn't want to settle down, how he just completely falls in love with this character. I just loved it. And another thing why I gave this 5 stars, so there is trigger warnings for death of a family member in this book. I'm not going to tell you what family member, but there are some very emotional scenes where they are at the hospital and they make the decision to stop treatment and to let this person pass away because it is their wishes that they don't want to continue treatment. And I'm trying not to get choked up about it, but just like Sara Simone at the end of this book even writes that she based it off of one of her own family members passing, and she's like, I'm not a medical person, so I don't know if I did this very accurately, but she's just based off of her own experience. So I am a dietitian and I work at a hospital, and just the way Sara Simone wrote that is very similar to what I actually see in the hospital when a family decides that the treatment that is being given to a person is not what that person would wish, and they decide to stop treatment and let the person pass away. I just thought Sara Simone did that so well, and I just thought it was very, I'm getting really choked up talking about it, but it was a very emotional scene, but it was so impactful. And like I said, I think Sara Simone did that really well. So I'm okay. Like I said, it had such a punch to me. So that's why it gets the 5 stars. It's something like I see working at a hospital. I see death every day. People die in hospitals every day. And I love it. Not that I love when people die, but I love it when families make that kind of decision based off of what that patient wants. You know, if a patient makes a decision that they don't want resuscitation, they don't want to be on these tubes and have all this extra stuff done, that they want to die their own way and in a somewhat more peaceful way, that's one of my favorite things in the world, is to let somebody die the way that they want to die. So that, you know, I appreciated that in this book. Anyway, so we're moving on so I can stop being super emotional. Okay, on to a less emotional book. I read Rake I'd Like to F, which is by all of these lovely authors. So this is like they were writing like a kind of like a series of these kind of anthologies, because I read Duke I Like to F a couple months ago, and then this one just came out, and then I've also seen that there's going to be next year Villain I'd Like to F, so I'm looking forward to that one. So again, this is just short stories, historical short stories written by all these authors. I unfortunately did not like this as much as I thought I was going to like this, and I did not like this as much as the first one. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I did appreciate that there was more queer representation in this book. So the first one, all of the stories are male-female pairings. This one, most of the stories have some sort of like queer representation. There's a few male-male stories. There's some menages in this one. So I like that they're kind of branching out a little bit more. However, the authors of the stories in the last book that I absolutely loved, I didn't really care for as much in this one, and then the ones in the last one that I didn't care for as much, I really loved in this one, which is not as many. But so I mean, it's really hard for me to talk about like anthologies because there's a bunch of different stories in here, but it did get 3 stars because overall I did still enjoy it. It just, I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to like it. So then we have Saint, which is the 3rd book of the Priest series. So this is about one of the other brothers. And again, this is kind of about the impact of how his sister's death, you know, impacted him a little bit. This is about the 2nd youngest brother. So this is the newest book of the series, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, because there is one more brother that doesn't have a book. I'm curious to see if he gets his own book. But anyway, so this is about him. He used to be kind of like the hero from Sinner. He used to be a businessman. He used to be playboy. And he was actually dating his older brother's best friend. So it's kind of like the reverse situation from Sinner, because Sinner, the hero, is dating his best friend's younger sister, and this one, it's that best friend that this guy is dating, if that makes sense. But so then something happens, and he decides to stop everything he's doing, and he immediately goes out to find a place where he can try to become a monk. And so this is him and his journey. And again, I don't think he's like quite like officially become a monk yet or something. I think he's in the process of it. So again, this is like him fully coming to that decision that yes, this is what he wants, kind of thing. So then his ex-boyfriend turns up, and he is a writer for this magazine, and these monks like make beer to kind of help make money for different causes to like run their whatever it's called, established, I don't know. So anyway, he is there to write an article about these monks that make beer, and these 2 characters run into each other, and sparks fly because they are both still in love with each other. So this is obviously a male-male romance. This is a second chance romance. It is taboo, brother's best friend, all those kind of tropes in it. And this was so good. This again is another 5-star read for me. and again, because of such an emotional impact that it had on me, she has such a punch. Like, Simone is just the best at writing very steamy and emotional scenes. There are trigger warnings in this for depression and suicidal ideations. Nobody actually attempts suicide, but the thoughts are there, so just be forewarned of that. But yeah, this was just so good. So because of all those emotional type reads, I wanted to try something a little bit different and something maybe a little bit more like on the fun side. So I decided to pick up Baby and the Late Night Howlers by Kathryn Moon. This is something that's different for me. So this is an Omegaverse type of book. So the Omegaverse is basically, it can be paranormal and it can be not paranormal. But in this world, people tend to have some more slightly like animalistic type tendencies. So everybody's categorized into these 3 types. So there are alphas, there are betas, and then there are omegas. So I think omegas, typically, I can't remember if it's in this universe, but typically omegas are the like people that are able to have babies, and usually the alphas are the ones that have to like protect omegas. For the most part, every world is a little bit different on how they do things. So in this one, we have our character Baby, and that is her name. She has lived all her life thinking she was a beta. And then she's out with her friend at this bar, and she finds out that she is an omega. And her omega abilities have come about a lot later than what normally happens. And so she's freaking out because for the most part, she should be okay, but since she's like putting off all these like scents, like pheromones or whatever, she's just afraid that something bad could happen to her. So she gets rescued by this guy, and he takes her to this like omega like sanctuary kind of place, and they are helping her figure out, you know, what being an omega means, and you know, they're trying to help her find a pack so that she can be safe, because that's the best way for omegas to be safe, is to have a pack that protects them. So she really likes this one pack, who they are more of a rough and tumble kind of pack. So like all these people that like she like goes on interviews and stuff with these different packs, and like all of them are very like rich. They to try to show that they can provide for their omega, and that, you know, they don't have anything that they can't do for them. But then we have this pack that she's really attracted to with like their scents. But they are an MC, and it's hard to describe, but like the people from the Omega Sanctuary are like, those are the worst people ever, you shouldn't be with them. But they are so good to Baby, and so loving towards her, and so protective towards her, and I just like really loved that. I also really liked how in this, in regards to like omegas and alphas, typically where I see this, you know, the alpha is supposed to be more of a dominant type of character, and omegas are typically seen more as like a subservient or submissive type of character, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it is for the most part, but not necessarily the case, because they, like, baby, like, makes her own decisions, and she stands up to the alphas, and I just really liked that in this book. So this is a reverse harem. There are some male action in it, but for the most part, it is revolved around baby. I gave this 4 stars. I just really enjoyed this one, and I'm glad I picked this up. I was kind of middle of the ground. I was just like, meh, I might like this, I might not, but I was pleasantly surprised by how much I like this one. And this book is kind of part of a series, and I think for the most part, a lot of the other books, I don't think you necessarily have to read them in order, but I think I'm going to. But this is the first one, and it's written by this author, and some of the books in the series are by another author, and I can't think of their name, but I do plan on continuing with the series in the future. Then we have How the Duke Stole Christmas, which is, again, another romance anthology. I don't have too much to say. This is historical romances, lots of historical romance authors in this one. Again, I gave this 3 stars just because, I don't know, the stories weren't bad, but they weren't like super great or memorable, and like all these stories are revolved somehow around Christmas. So then we have Manix by Grace McGinty. This was just because I read Baby in the Late Night Howlers. I was like, okay, I really like that one. I need to read some more Omegaverse, obviously. So I tried this one because I've heard some really good things about this one. This leans more towards paranormal. And this is about this group called the Manix. And so they are a paranormal race, but their race is dying out, and they have no more female Omegas. So there are still some females in their group, so they can still make babies. They just haven't been producing any female Omegas. And female Omegas in this universe are how they can repopulate a lot more. So like this book does feature impreg, which if you're not familiar with that, is when a male can get pregnant. So in this universe, this pack, I think they've got 2 alphas, 2 betas, and then a male Omega. And so what's special about male Omegas and female Omegas when they mate is that they need the female to, have fertilized eggs or, whatever. But then when the male and female Omega mate together, he can take the eggs and can birth, he can get pregnant with more than one baby, whereas the female can only have one. So it's kind of like seahorses, kind of. But so that's what they want, so that they can have more. But anyway, so this group, they are a pack, and they are going out into the normal world because one member of the group has extra special smelling, and he can smell a female Omega. So they are going to try to find her and try to convince her to become a part of their pact and help them make some babies. So I gave this one 3 stars. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I thought I was going to. I did still enjoy this. This is a reverse harem. This is actually, I feel like this is a little bit more polyamory and polyamorous than specifically reverse harem, because all of the males in the pack have sexual relations with each other. It's not just the female. And then, like I said, it does have impreg, which honestly, it was a little weird, but it wasn't a deal breaker for me. It wasn't as weird as I thought it could have been. I was just, I don't know, I was wanting a little bit more where I felt like I had an investment in the characters, and I was wanting a little bit more emotion from it, and I just wasn't really feeling that as much with this one, so that's why I get 3 stars. Then I read Dangerous by Minerva Spencer, which is a historical romance, and I read this one because Jen from the Book Refuge has been talking about this one a lot lately. And this one, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't 100% remember everything that happened. I listened to this one on an audiobook, and I'm wondering if I may have enjoyed it a little bit more if I physically read it instead of listening to it, because there were some things that I feel like I missed. But this is basically about our heroine, and she has returned to England. She ended up escaping a harem that she was in, and I can't remember if I think she was like taken against her will, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. And so she's back in England, and she doesn't like her father. And so she's trying to find a husband as soon as possible, basically so she can get out of her father's house. And so she meets this guy who doesn't have the best reputation. He's known for killing like 2 of his prior wives, like rumor he killed them. And so she's like, okay, cool, whatever, don't care, I'm gonna marry him. And he is wanting to get married again because he has no male heirs. He only has daughters, so he needs a son to be his heir. So that's basically, he's like, I don't really care what you're doing, whatever you have to do, I need a son. And she's like, okay, cool, whatever, we can do that. But in the meantime, she is trying to get out of England and go back to where she escaped from because her son is being held captive there. So yeah, so that's kind of what this book is about. I give this 3.5 stars. I had issues because the heroine never tells the hero about her son and about wanting to go save him. And I think that would have solved a lot of problems had she done that. And then, like I said, I don't know if I feel like it might have just been because I listened to this on audiobook. I feel like I missed a lot of like the whys of like why we were doing this or what was going on with that. So, but it is pretty steamy, so that was cool. And I mean, overall I did enjoy it. It just wasn't as great as I was thinking it was going to be. Then we have Love in the Wild by Emma Castle. This one I really enjoyed. This is a Tarzan retelling. So like the plot of it, like it's basically, if you've seen the movie Tarzan, this is what this book is about, except it is modern day. So our Tarzan character, you know, he was with his parents, and they were like flying to the jungle because both of his parents were like really into conservationism and helping out like the jungle forest and all the animals out there and stuff. And then their plane crashes, and then there are these bad guys, like poachers or something, that are around, and they actually are trying to find this like treasure and end up killing his parents and leaving him for dead in the jungle, because I think when the plane crashed he was like two or three, something like that. And then of course the gorillas find him and raise him, just like, you know, in Tarzan. And then we have our Jane character, who later on comes, and she is just kind of on vacation, and she is a photographer, so she's like there in Africa to capture the wildlife when her group, like the tour that she's on, again, these bad guys come and kill basically everybody on the tour group, except her because she is saved by the Tarzan character. And then of course they have their relationship. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this because I thought the relationship between the 2 characters was so sweet. I especially loved the hero. He was so sweet and loving towards her. My only issues with this was it has a little bit of mystic magicaliness to it that I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know if it's, was it called like magical realism or something in books? I'm just like not a big fan of that. I would rather you go either straight fantasy paranormal or straight contemporary. None of that like mishmash in the middle. It just doesn't work as well for my brain. So it had some elements of that to it that I just didn't care for. Had it not had that, I may have given this a little bit higher rating because I really enjoyed this one. It was really good. And the last book that I read for December, and the last book that I read for the year of 2021, which I kind of ended on a low note because I did not rate this book very high. It's going to be 4 by Sara Cate. I've read several Sara Cate books this year, so I just wanted to try another book by her. And this is a reverse harem, so I thought maybe I would like this. This is about this girl, and at the very beginning of the book, her family gets killed by snipers and assassins. And before her dad dies, he is able to tell her, hey, go to this person and he will help you. And so she goes there, finds this guy, and realizes that that guy owed a debt to her father. So he's going to protect her for a little bit until she can get on her feet. But it's that guy and his 2 sons. And she has a reverse harem situation with all 3 of them. But she finds out that they are assassins. And so she wants to learn more about their business, and she wants them to teach her how to be an assassin so she can take revenge against the person that killed her father. So like I said, I did not rate this very highly. I gave this 2 stars. I had issues with the heroine. She kind of bothered me at times. And then I also thought the whole reverse harem situation where she's sleeping with the dad and his 2 sons. Granted, one of them is adopted, but still was really weird. And I've read that situation with her, and she did that with the Gravity, which was also really weird and bonkers. But in that situation, I like loved it. And then it like ended because it was more of a love triangle kind of thing. And she chose one of the characters. No, this one, they decide that they're okay with sharing this girl amongst the family members. And they're just going to keep doing it and going with it. And there is a scene where she has sex with one of the brothers, and then the other brother does some stuff and kind of joins in, sort of. And then the dad is just watching. And I was just like, that's too weird. Nope. Not for me. I did not care for that at all. So that's mostly why this got 2 stars. And then also it's just, I don't know, I couldn't really connect to any of the characters. I don't know. I didn't really care for this one. And I think I heard that this one is getting a sequel this year, which I do not plan on reading because that was just weird and I didn't like it. So there we go. So those are all the books that I read in the latter half of December. Make sure you hit the like button if you like this video. Leave a comment down below with some of your favorite reads for December, and honestly for the year was, because we're at the end of the year. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you can see more videos from me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye guys!